So, you're a great speaker, but is your business actually working? Most professionals are blocked by their architecture, not their talent. Go to presentinfluence.com and take the strategic speaking business audit. It takes 2 minutes to identify the number one bottleneck stopping you from doubling your bookings, rebookings, and referrals. Find out if you're running a hobby or a business strategy and get your personalized roadmap. That's presentinfluence.com. Yesterday, another coach asked me to sit in on their group coaching call. It was really great. So Ryan, thank you for inviting me onto that. But whilst I was there, Ryan asked me a question. And the question was this: what did I think as a speaker and as a speaker coach for many years was the top reason why most speakers don't advance and get success as professional speakers? My answer to that question is what this episode is going to be about. It's going to be a bit of a shorter episode, so we're going to dive into it, but hopefully it'll give you a bit more clarity about one of the main obstacles that speakers tend to face. In fact, I'm going to share with you how it is that I can tell whether a speaker is going to be successful or not. Usually, most of the time, within less than 5 minutes of talking to them. So welcome to Professional Speaking, the show for speakers who want to master the stage, book more gigs, and treat speaking like a business. My name is John Ball. I'm a keynote speaker, a strategic speaking business coach, and a stand-up comedian. And I'm here as your guide on the journey towards speaking business mastery. Welcome to the show. And if this is your first time here, welcome. Great to have you here. And if it's not, welcome back. If you have been listening to the show before and you're not already subscribed, please make sure you do. And if you're new to the show, well, you might want to listen to a bit before you make the decision, but I hope by the end of the episode, you will make that decision to subscribe. I will say this to help sweeten the pot for you. I have an interview with the amazing Maria Franzoni, who's a former speaker bureau owner and amazing top-level speaker coach. That's coming out at the end of this week. I also just recently, today in fact, interviewed David Newman, CSP, who is an incredible speaker and mostly now just coaches and consults for professional speakers. He has amazing books like Do It Speaking and his new book, Market Eminence. You would not want to miss them. It was a great recording, an episode that I'm going to be going back and replaying to listen to all the stuff he said, because there was some absolute gold in there. So if that doesn't whet your appetite for subscribing to the show, I don't know what will. So the question was this: what is the number one reason why most speakers struggle to succeed? What is it that stops them from getting over the edge? And my answer was pretty simple: too much thinking and not enough action. Too much thinking, not enough action. Because the reality is most speakers probably don't get to the reality of speaking gigs or getting well paid for speaking because they spend way too much time planning. They live in the planning zone. They live there until they lose all momentum, until they just figure that nothing's happening, so they might as well focus on other things. The money's running out, whatever savings they had, if they weren't working in the meantime, or other stuff's going on with their job that they're just going to pay attention to that now because the speaking isn't progressed enough, because they've spent all their time in planning. It's a comfort zone, sadly. I said to you that I could generally tell within less than 5 minutes of meeting a speaker whether or not they would be successful or not. And this is from years of coaching with people, and certainly saw it in my time with the Speaker Lab as a coach there as well, that the main trait would get onto a call with somebody, and within a couple of minutes, I could tell whether they were champing at the bit, whether they just wanted to start prospecting, even if they didn't have a talk title yet, even if they didn't really know who their audience was going to be, they didn't have their abstracts or any actual assets that they could use at that point. They still wanted to start prospecting. They still wanted to start reaching out. That is a pretty good sign that someone's going to be successful. And that would generally be people who had some sort of sales experience and background, although not always essential as well. Certainly that's not mostly my background or some more recent years with sales experience, but before that, not so much. So I don't think it's a critical factor, but it's a great mindset to have because they're less afraid about getting out there and getting rejected or having to figure out what's not working and what would work instead. Get the feedback from people, good and bad, that's going to help you get to your end destination. Because here's the thing with the planners. They like to think things through carefully. They want to have all their assets ready to go. They want their speaker page looking perfect. They want their abstracts all fully completed. They want their talk topics and titles validated, and they want their coach to tell them all the good things. But if they're not actually doing the outreach and prospecting, they haven't got much of a chance. Because here's what happens. You end up delaying the real action, the real activity that will get you results for the sake of planning, for the sake of having everything perfect as it's ready to go. But you know that thing, is it Mike Tyson? He said that everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. At some point, if you do get started with the real work of getting booked as a speaker, you're going to get punched in the face. You're going to get, not literally, I hope, but you're going to get the rejections. You're going to get the slapdowns, the lack of responses, the things that are sometimes disheartening, and the people who don't want to work with you. That's all going to happen. And a lot of people don't want to have to deal with that, but it all gives you feedback. And then you'll get booked and you'll get feedback, and some of it's going to be great and some of it's not going to be great. And you have to learn from that. We have to go through this thing. Seth Godin calls it the dip. Great little book. We have to go through the dip. And even if you've done the most perfect planning to launch yourself as a speaker, it's not until the rubber meets the road that you're actually going to be able to figure things out. Because even with everything done in advance, you are going to have to reconfigure. You might have to pivot, figure other things out. You'll see things very clearly that aren't working, and you'll see what is. You'll get feedback that you don't like. You'll get feedback that you love. You get all sorts of things coming back to you that are going to help to direct the journey that you take as a speaker. But none of that happens if you stay stuck in park, stay stuck in neutral, stay on the ground at the airport, your plane never taking off. You know, that thing of when a plane, let's say a plane's going from London to New York, and you look at the flight map and it looks like a straight line. London to New York, yeah, it's really straightforward. But most of us know this by now, that most planes spend a lot of their time getting knocked off route by winds, for blowing around a bit, and maybe having to move around a little bit to avoid other planes coming in other directions, make sure they have plenty of space. All these sorts of things can take them out of that straight line. So they're moving in all other directions, but constantly readjusting so that they can still get to the end destination. And there might be all sorts of turbulence and challenges along the way. That's life. That's what happens. But you still do everything you can to get to that end destination. And it's never a straight line. So I would say don't even try to start perfect. Start imperfect, because it's never going to be perfect. And it's going to be, like if you write a book and you send it to a publisher, and you want to get it published by a publisher, and they might come back, and if they like it and want to publish the book, they're probably going to tell you that they want all sorts of rewrites, and they want to change this and change that and do this instead of that. And your precious, darling baby book that you've created is going to be completely changed from what you had envisioned at the start, because you went ahead and completed it without having the industry feedback from a professional as to what their expectation would be for that kind of book. I'm going to forget the name of the author here who came up with the concept of kill your darlings, but you do often have to do that. So maybe start before you actually create them, and then you don't have to kill them. You can figure things out as you go, because you're not going to have it all figured out when you start. So imperfect action really is far better to go for and start figuring it out. Perfect as you go. Make things better as you go. Know that you'll never really hit perfection. There's always going to be a level beyond where you are. That's not the goal. But perfecting absolutely is. But it only can happen when you start really making things happen. And I'll say this, throwing out all sorts of content, throwing all the, as Courtney was talking about last week, throwing all the spaghetti pasta in Italy at the wall in terms of content and social interactions on social media, and seeing very little results from that. It's very common for a lot of speakers. We're trying to cover all our bases and do everything. And yet you get so little yield from it that it ends up becoming disheartening, disappointing, because you don't really see the results that you would be hoping to see. These things are nearly always slow build. Organic growth is nearly always slow build. It requires some patience. It requires a will. It requires you to know that this is what you really want to do. I got asked by a friend recently, knowing that I had done theatre studies, drama at university, amongst other topics. Why didn't I become an actor? So, well, look, I loved doing it. I just didn't think I had what it takes to become a professional actor. Did I have talent? Yes, some. I was better in comedies than pretty much anything else, which sort of maybe more understandable as I look back. One thing was I didn't really think I was attractive enough to become a professional actor. I wasn't sure I had the talent. But the deal breaker for me was this. I figured to do something like that, I had to know for myself that I couldn't do anything else, that nothing else would make me happy, that this was it. This is the thing that I really, really want to do above everything else. And I just didn't know that. It just seemed like a nice, fun thing that if someone wanted to pay me for doing that, great. But otherwise I was just probably going to have fun and be happy doing some amateur productions. And now I'm happy doing my speaking gigs and comedy nights and things like that. So it's all worked out. But I think this can be similar for our lives now. Is like a lot of the reason why people don't go forward is given them a lot of what ties people into this not really taking action is the imposter syndrome, is they're thinking they're not attractive enough, thinking that they're not interesting enough, not experienced enough, not enough of an expert in what they're doing, all sorts of reasons. Rather than actually getting started, you are giving people the reasons to reject you before you even go out there and do it. And yet you know that this is what you really want to do. The alternative is going back to the thing that you wanted to get away from, the thing that you never want to go back to. And that's not too appealing. So how do you start taking the right kind of action? I often will talk about this. You need that business engine. And it's not the sexy stuff of speaking. This is all the stuff that happens off stage, behind the scenes, you in your office or in your co-working space or wherever you are working from, coffee bars, whatever, doing the research, doing the prospecting, using your CRM, following up with people, doing the reach out, finding out who's booking in your area, looking through feedback from previous events that you've done and making improvements to what you're offering, getting a coach to make sure that you can fix whatever opportunity leaks you have in your business right now and make sure that you are really not just mastering the stage, but getting as many bookings as you can and achieving the top level of income that you can for the stage that you're at currently. And I don't think we can generally do that too easily by ourselves. We need some external eyes on what we're doing. And you might say, oh, yeah, you would say that you're a coach. You want us to come and be your client. So you can be my client. You can work with someone else. I just want you to get the help that you need to get to where you want to get to. I can do that for many of you, and other coaches can as well. Maybe you prefer to work with Maria Franzoni if you can afford her fees, because she costs a lot more than me. Maybe you prefer to work with David Newman, who I was just talking about. He does all these courses. You might have to travel for some of those. But there are other people who do those programs as well. I'm okay if you don't choose me to be your coach. I'll survive. But if you do, I'm one of the people who can help you to do that. But I think we all need those external eyes on what we do. We need something more than AI to give us feedback. We need someone who can watch us on stage or watch us on a podcast interview and give us the real feedback that we need to hear. I was talking about this recently about a podcast guest who some of the guests I have on the show are not always very aware of when they're talking too much or when they're not really leaving gaps for the speaker, for the host, where they're making it almost pointless for the host to be there, or whether they're just oversharing or overexcited or not coming across well. As a host, generally you're not going to feed that back to people. They don't appreciate it. It's not what they came for. And even if they ask for it, some people do ask for feedback. You want to be polite. They've just given up their time and their energy and to come and share with you. So they're not the people to give you feedback. You need this passionate feedback from someone who doesn't owe you anything, from someone who you're paying to give you that feedback that you really need to hear. Tell you good stuff, tell you we're doing well and help you enhance, but to tell you what's not going well, to help you course correct for the things that you can't see, because we all have blind spots as well. But I think the biggest blind spot I see for most speakers who are not really progressing and moving forward is that they're too focused on creating content, trying to go viral online, trying to create YouTube videos, trying to have the podcasts or whatever else to get them the results. I've just been creating a program for strategic podcast guesting for speakers, and I think it can be a great strategy for getting yourself out there. And certainly if you're a speaker who does other things than speaking as well, even better. It's not always so easy, but still possible to get speaking gigs through your podcast appearances if you show up the right way. But you then have to know how to show up the right way. You can't just show up and wing it and hope that it all works out, or that somebody likes you and I say, oh, I should bring them in as a speaker. This idea that we're going to get spotted or other people are just going to pluck us out of obscurity needs to be let go of. Nearly everything you will get is going to come from you being excellent at what you do and being out there doing it in the world. Now, I know that a lot of speakers will tell you that they get most of their business through referrals, but they still have to build up to a level where they're getting the referrals first. And if you haven't got that kind of momentum, you have to start building it up. And even when you do, even when times are good, you still need to keep that engine tuned and going, keep the follow-ups going. Speaking is a business. It's not just the case of when you get to a sufficient level of speaker celebrity that you can stop. Even famous people who do some speaking work still need to work, still need to put some fuel in their engine to get more things happening, to get more bookings if they're relying on speaking income. So these are things to think about. But hopefully this gets some clarity, as the number one thing to focus on doing is stop planning or stop over planning, because you might as well just go and sit in the park or the garden and stare at the sky, because it's not going to get you where you want to get to. It's time to get focused on action. Yes, you need some kind of plan, but you need the kind of plan you could write on a post-it note or the back of a bar napkin. You only need enough strategy to be able to start moving forward and taking action. You do not want or need to have everything figured out. I hope this message hits home, and I hope it's valuable to you as well. I even find myself telling myself this sometimes because it's such an easy trap to fall into. We have to keep taking action. It has to be real world action. It has to be putting ourselves into the danger zone, the discomfort zone, where we meet reality, that where we can get rejected, where we can get feedback that we don't like. That's all how we grow and start to figure out it's the path to excellence. It's the path to the stage of speaking that we all want to be at. And we have to take those bits as being part of the journey, not as being something we hope we can avoid. All right, I'm going to wrap things up there. If you have a speaking business right now, I hope you do. That's good reason to listen to this show. If you haven't already taken the 2-minute speaker quiz audit, do go and take it. It's going to help you figure out where the leaks are in your business. And if you want, we can have a little chat about how to help you fix those opportunity leaks to make sure that you are rising up in the right way. If this show has inspired you to some kind of action, if this show has hit home for you in some kind of way, or maybe poked you a little bit and oh, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, but yeah, you're right, let me know. I'd love to hear that. I'll be honest, I'm desperately looking for 5-star reviews on Spotify at the moment. If you have Spotify, look for Professional Speaking and the podcast there, and you will have to listen to, you can listen to the trailer, you can listen to at least a couple of shows. I think you have to listen to at least 30 seconds of a few shows, and then it will let you leave a rating. Please go there and leave us 5 stars. It's going to help people. It actually encourages Spotify to recommend the show to other people in similar areas. It is your word of mouth, your referrals, your recommendations that help this show to grow. We are growing. It's a slow and steady journey, one I'm very happy to see has been increasing a fair bit recently. So for those of you who have been coming to the show and sticking around, thank you so much. I hope you've been getting value from it, and I will look forward to seeing you again next time on Professional Speaking. Bye for now.